this is my hopefully quick packing video on what I took to Norway for my first cabin to cabin ski trip. This is actually everything I took with me, spread out from here to here. All of it fit in this fantastic backpack. This is my kite bag from Osprey. It's 46 liters. I've used it for all of my hiking trips so far and absolutely love it. So to get started with, the most important thing are skis. So these are mine. I bought them in Lillehammer from a brand called Asnes. I'm definitely saying it wrong. But what's unique about them compared to my normal skis is you can probably see here they've got steel edges, so they cut super well through ice. They're also about 3 millimeters wider than the typical cross-country ski track, which sucked on days I was on group trails, but was awesome for the days where I was stomping through the snow. Similarly, poles, they have these ends related to ski boots. These, as you can probably tell, are quite a bit thicker than a normal cross-country ski boot. They actually come up a few inches over my ankle. They're completely waterproof, so I could use them for walking to and from the outhouses at night. I did, even though it was nicer to leave them in the drying room. They're not breathable. I made the fatal error of not buying them in the US and breaking them in before I went, so these were blister causing things. I'm hopeful that now that they're broken in, I even noticed by the end of the trip my blisters were better than the beginning. So fingers crossed next time these will work. I'm not stuck buying a totally new set of boots. So now that that's out of the way, what actually went in my bag? So one of the things that I did was actually try to dry bag everything into different units, so it was super easy to unpack when I got to the cabins. So this dry bag is clothing. So what I've got in here are 2 t-shirts, both merino wool, because I'm a merino wool fanatic, 1 pair of fleece-lined tights, and 1 pair of merino wool pants, sort of a cross between tights and pants, that I actually could have worn skiing during the day. I didn't actually end up wearing the pants. These are icebreakers, I believe they're called crush pants. Super comfy. They're basically sweatpants in merino wool, so loved them. Great cabin stuff. But one other thing that I took that was great this time, that I threw out of my dry bag there, were socks for the cabin. So rather than big thick socks, I also took this little pair of socks. What I found was I ended up having to wear both pairs of my thick socks, these socks, to prevent my blisters in the boots from getting worse. So having these little socks to change into in the cabin at night was awesome, especially when my feet were wet. So, repack this dry bag, and I will stick it in a big bag. Spare footwear. So normally I have taken cabin shoes in the past, and I've taken Allbirds. This time I decided to try taking my trail runners, selfishly because I wanted to break in my trail runners. I'm an idiot. I signed up for a trail marathon this summer. I've run 1 marathon in my life. It was New York City. It was terrible. 2 weeks later, I was like, I'm never running a marathon again. But it turns out sibling rivalry is like one of the strongest forces in the universe. My brother signed up for this marathon. I couldn't lose to my younger brother. That is atrocious. So I also signed up for this marathon, so I'm breaking in my trail runners right now. I actually found them to be awesome as spare cabin shoes because they're pretty waterproof, not fully waterproof, but pretty waterproof. Super lightweight, so it didn't take up a lot of space in my bag, and definitely give me conviction the next time I go hiking, I'll be taking these in my hiking boots instead of Allbirds in my hiking boots. Throw those in the bag. Other items of clothing. 2 pairs of merino wool socks. These are my favorite. They're official DNT socks. As you can see, they are all the T's. They used to be a lot nicer looking than this. Also, I'm slightly embarrassing. I own all the DNT gear. This I bought at the DNT store in Lillehammer because I realized I only had 1 pair of socks with me. welcome to the layering section. So what I would typically wear is a t-shirt covered by this sweater. So this is a merino wool 3/4 zip. It's actually the same one I took on Massive. So there's a giant hole in the elbow. Bad choice. I should have checked that before I went. That elbow actually did get cold sometimes, so I think it might be time for this sweater to be retired. Don't love that, but it is what it is. And then what I would layer on top of that is a down jacket. So I found this jacket also from DNT because I have an embarrassing amount of DNT gear. I found this to actually be warm enough for most days that I was out skiing. I didn't need to necessarily layer over it, but great jacket, and definitely helped. The next layer that I would wear over that jacket, if it was really cold, is my extremely loved raincoat. So this raincoat is from Bergen's of Norway. But I'm a short person with a short torso, and this has been the only raincoat I found that actually fits me. I am obsessed with it. It's not crinkly, and it's a little bit tight, but it was able to layer over both my sweater and my down jacket. So I wore it both for snow and just as a shell. It's actually more comfortable than most of my windbreakers. So, final outer layer, not extremely hated, rain pants. So these are from REI Co-op. I'm kind of torn on them. They're so much nicer than my old rain pants, but they have an issue where, if you can see down here, the rain pant can be tightened at the bottom, but it's held together by this cord, and usually there's a little end piece here. Mine fell off. I had to tie it. The reason was this kept falling off and getting stuck under my ski. More clothing things. These are gaiters. I took them for trip. This is their long trip number 4. They have been on Massive Saga and on my 10 days in Trollheimen trip. I've never once used them because they're annoying as hell. So I think this is going to be where they are gifted on to someone else who might actually use them. Quite frankly, I found in between my ski boots being so high, so 3 inches above my ankle, 4 inches above my ankle, plus my rain pants, there was no time where the gaiters would have prevented water getting into my boot. The bigger problem I had actually was moisture in my boot because my feet were sweating. Just the gaiters, if anything, would make worse. So I'm not even going to put them in my backpack. I'm going to put them on top of my gear dresser, gear that I actually hate and I'm going to give away. Okay, so another dry bag, currently empty. This one carried my laptop. I have in the past ruined electronics, so the dry bag for your electronics is a very good investment. I took a buff to protect my neck. Didn't actually use it because my sweater zipped up far enough that in between that and my down jacket, I didn't find this useful. I do see how it would be useful though if the wind had been much worse. I was lucky, most days weren't that windy, and because my raincoat comes out slightly above my face, like about here, it meant that I didn't actually get windburned. So, good thought, not useful. So you're not supposed to take doubles of things if you don't need to, but I did take 2 different types of gloves, and I'm super glad that I did. So these are cross-country ski gloves. They're not 100% waterproof, but are breathable. They fit to your hand, and they even have extra padding where normally the glove would rub against the pole. I actually got them in Zingfeld for cross-country skiing. They're fantastic, but when it's cold or wet out, these things are the warmest gloves that I've ever had. They're just big mittens. They're just big mittens. And I actually would find that I often use these during the mornings because there would be ice on the side of my poles, on my pole straps, that would build up overnight when I left my poles and skis outside of the cabin. So these would keep that from melting on my hands at the beginning of the day, and then usually about an hour into the day, I'd end up switching into these gloves. which actually I usually get really cold hands. That system worked perfectly. I only had cold hands one day, and that was at the end of, mile 17 on a 20-mile day. The sun had started to go down behind the mountains, and I was in a little bit of, oh, it's chilly now, and I'm hungry, and I'm ready to stop. So, hat. So normally I have an embarrassing hat with a giant pom-pom that I wear skiing, so that my friends can spot me from far distances, or they can just ask other people who are skiing if they've seen the ridiculous looking person with the pom-pom that's that big. I did not, much to their chagrin, take that hat on this trip. I took this because it fit pretty close to my head and actually fit when I put the hood up on my rain jacket. Also 100% wool, so. Okay, so that's covers clothing. Sangatoy, or bed sheets for the cabins. You could take a sleeping bag, which I really love having the full Sangatoy set and being able to cuddle up in the blanket at night, so I took it. This is called a wind sack, or literally a wind sack, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a giant bag that you can crawl into to keep yourself safe from the wind. I didn't actually end up using it. I think the hassle of having to stop and get it out and dig into the snow and put it around me was just too high. But it's one of those things, I'm really glad I had it, even if I didn't use it. Alpine ski goggles for really sunny or windy days. Did not use them because I didn't see the sun for most of the trip. I'll take them again. Maybe not this orange color. These are my brother's old ski goggles. He took, I think he has my like really, really nice pair and left me with these. So we're gonna need to steal those. Toiletries and towel, including wilderness wash, which was a whole lot less useful in the winter than it was in the summer. So just standard toiletries. This is a towel that actually compresses down to this, but is actually the size of a normal towel when you unwrap it, which I use for service cabins where there's a shower that you can access. It's so handy to have. So, and tiny. I actually got this one at the D&T store on Lillehammer. I had another headlamp with me. This is from my childhood. It is many years old, and it runs on batteries. To be honest, I didn't know if I totally trusted it to continue running on batteries, and if you run out of batteries in the middle of the trip, you can't go buy more batteries. So I actually bought this one, which can be charged off of my battery pack with a standard USB charger. Much brighter, lighter, pretty much superior to this one in all respects. I think this is also going to go in the gear to be donated forward. I would be totally fine using it for a camping trip. I wouldn't use it for another cabin to cabin trip. Charger. One important note, the cabins generally don't have these two-pronged plugs. They often have a USB outlet, and so I also had to pick up, not featured because I think I left it on the plane, USB to USB-C adapter that I could use actually to charge my phone. But good to remember, always bring something that will plug into a USB, otherwise you'll be out of luck at a lot of the cabins. Sleep mask, didn't need it. Glove liners, didn't need them. Probably won't bring them again, but you know, I'm glad I had them. Ski wax, I actually did use this. I'm going to apologize for the noise in the background. There are a couple of neighborhood cats having a fight, and they are not stopping to allow me to continue filming, so we're just going to ignore them. This is a broken bag. These were ski pole ends that I got before my trip, thinking I might need them. Turns out these wouldn't have done me much good. So you know where they're also going? To your retirement home. This is my first aid bag. The most important thing I actually had in here were Band-Aids, of which there are almost none left. I'm gonna have to restock. I got terrible blisters on this trip, partially because my ski boots were often damp because my feet would sweat during the day, and they didn't have time to dry out in the cabin at night. And just generally I was breaking in new boots, So glad that I basically took a full pack of bandages with me. Running watch, normally wearing it. I upgraded watches. This one allowed me actually to download GPS tracks onto my watch and use them like this as I was going, which was so useful, especially because a lot of the trails were only partially marked, or I would have a sense of, oh, I need to go this way, but it's really foggy and I'm not totally sure where the next pole is. So having that just as a backup was just really handy. So speaking of maps and compass, so useful. Again, I didn't actually use the maps, but again, it's one of those things, in case something happened, I would have been very glad I had them. One of the challenges is actually you can't see the lakes. You only ski over the lakes or the rivers. And so being able to look and say, oh, am I skiing over a body of water? Like, do I need to worry about unsafe ice? Or is the terrain around me really steep? Should I be scared of avalanche? Maps were great for that. I really bent this one up. I fortunately had the whole map set because I thought I was going to hike this trip last summer before Norway had once in a generation rain. So duct tape. Didn't use it. You never know when you need it. A couple important things. Thermos. So actually water will freeze because it's so cold. So fill your thermos with warm water before you leave for the day so that you'll have something to drink while you're skiing. Otherwise, you're going to be totally stuck. Snacks. There's a set of matches in here. I've never been to a self-service or unserviced cabin that didn't have matches, but just in case, I bring some of my own too. And licorice boats, which are essentially little packages of sugar, are my go-to for hiking pick-me-ups. Passport and cards in a bag. This is actually important because in the Faroe Islands, I did not have my passport in a plastic bag. I fell in a bog. My backpack was soaked, and my previous passport is still wrinkled and cannot be machine read easily because it has bog remnants on it. So, life lesson. And finally, the D&T key. Absolutely need this. It lets you into all of the self-service and unserviced cabins. Do check OOT before you go, oot.no, ut.no. Before you go, some of the cabins don't use the D&T key, but the vast majority do. I have so much paranoia that I'm going to lose this on every trip. I might have to get a second. So anyway, that's all my things. Let me put them in my backpack. So you can see, this backpack is not packed well, as I just sort of threw things in as I was talking about them. Not how I would actually do it, but you can see it's really not that much stuff, actually, once you put it all in the backpack. Obviously, when I am going, I also have lunch up there, but I'm also wearing some of the clothes that I've packed. So, all in all, your gear should weigh between 10 and 12 kilos, or like 20 to 25 pounds. I was probably on the lighter end of that, although I did take my laptop and a book. I do like taking a book, just because you often have a lot of downtime in cabins. But sort of all together, this is about what you need. Yeah. So good luck. And obviously, if you have any questions on what I took or why I took things or why I didn't take things, feel free to ping me at Solo Female Wanderer, or on the website. And yeah, also, I really love the fact these skis are named after badass female polar explorers. It's a little weird to have my skis looking at me all the time.